3 years ago, I came home to my family's lakefront property in Montana, expecting to find the quiet retreat I'd inherited from my grandfather. Instead, I found myself staring down two police cars, their sirens blaring, lights flashing, as if I were some kind of criminal. All because I dared to pitch a tent on my own land. The HOA president, a woman named Evelyn Harper, stormed up with a stack of official-looking papers, claiming I was trespassing on a community recreation area. The moment the officer checked his system, her confident smirk vanished. What I uncovered about my 2-year absence will make you question every neighbor you've ever trusted. You won't believe what people will do when they think no one's watching. Let me take you back to how this nightmare kicked off. I'd been away for 8 months, leading eco-tours across South America, drained to my core, but thrilled to finally return to my family's property on Lake Willow in Montana. The tourism industry had taken a beating, so I decided to settle down for good, no more living out of a backpack. My plan was simple: set up camp by the lake, where I'd fished with my grandfather as a kid, and just breathe. I grabbed my dusty camping gear from the shed, hiked down to the water's edge, and started pitching my tent in the same spot I'd used since I was 12. It felt like coming home until I looked around. My jaw dropped. Where there'd once been nothing but wild grass and open water, there was now a sleek, professional dock with a sign reading Willow Shores Community Access in fancy script. Picnic tables, grills, changing rooms, even a floating swim platform. Someone had turned my land into a full-blown resort. Families were everywhere, kids splashing in the lake, parents grilling burgers, cars parked up and down my driveway like it was a public park. Confused, I approached a guy flipping steaks at one of the grills. "Excuse me," I said, keeping my tone polite. "This is private property." He looked at me like I was the one out of place. "We pay the HOA every month for lake access," he said. Evelyn told us the owner gave full permission. My head spun. Evelyn? Who the hell was Evelyn? And why was she making decisions about my lake? Before I could process this, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder until 2 police cars screeched to a stop on my property. Officer Daniel Brooks stepped out, his partner close behind, both moving like they were approaching a dangerous suspect. My heart pounded, but I raised my hands and said, "Officers, there's been a huge misunderstanding. This is my family's land, has been for generations." Before I could explain further, a shiny black SUV pulled up, and out stepped Evelyn Harper, radiating authority in a tailored blazer. She introduced herself as the Willow Shores HOA president and launched into a polished speech about how I was trespassing on a designated community area. She handed me a thick folder of documents, including an easement agreement that supposedly gave the HOA rights to my lake. It looked legit: official stamps, signatures, the works. But something felt off. The signature on the document wasn't mine, and the date? It was from when I was halfway across Peru, nowhere near Montana. Officer Brooks, calm and thorough, checked the county records on his laptop right there. "Ma'am," he said to Evelyn, his voice steady, "there's no easement filed with the county. Mr. Carter owns this property outright, no restrictions." Evelyn's face went white as a sheet. Her hands shook as she stammered about a filing error, but I could see the panic in her eyes. That's when I noticed the surveillance cameras, small, professional grade, hidden around the lake, recording everything. My stomach churned. How long had she been watching my property? And what kind of operation was I really up against? The police left, advising us to work it out civilly, leaving me face to face with Evelyn, who I was starting to suspect was more than just a pushy HOA president. I grabbed a measuring tape from the shed and started walking the property, piecing together the scope of what she'd done. This wasn't just a dock and some picnic tables. There were electric hookups tied to the county grid, water lines, even waste management systems, professional infrastructure that must have cost at least $50,000. This was no weekend project. It was a calculated operation. And those cameras? They weren't cheap hardware store junk. They were high-end, likely pricier than my truck. Within hours, Evelyn had called an emergency HOA meeting, sending out a mass email with the subject line "Community Threat, Mandatory Attendance." She even invited me to discuss what she called a property dispute, painting me as the troublemaker. I showed up at the community center, expecting a small crowd. Instead, I walked into a room packed with 50 residents, the biggest HOA meeting in years. Evelyn stood at the front, all confidence, declaring, "Mr. Carter is threatening our lake access privileges, which we've paid for and enjoyed for 2 years." I couldn't believe her audacity. I stood phenomenon and said, "What privileges? This is my family's land." Then the bombshell dropped. A woman named Clara Bennett raised her hand and said, "I pay $300 a month for premium lake access." Another guy, Tom Reynolds, chimed in, "My family spent $7,200 over 2 years for lake rights." I did the math in my head. 50 families, $300 a month for 24 months. That's $360,000. Evelyn had been running a $250,000 scam, charging people to use my lake. The room erupted as people realized they'd been duped. "We paid to trespass," someone shouted. "She told us it was legal," another voice called out. Clara, a retired county clerk, stood up with the authority of someone who'd seen it all. "I checked the county records," she said. "There's no easement. Ever." She demanded Evelyn produce her copy of the agreement. Evelyn fumbled, handed over the same forged document she'd shown the police, and Clara shut her down. "I processed thousands of easements. This signature is fake." Clara had done her homework, handing me a folder of HOA financial records showing a lake access fund, with $360,000 collected over 2 years, plus another $60,000 in maintenance fees. Evelyn had pocketed $420,000, all documented in the HOA's own books. As the meeting descended into chaos, people demanding refunds, threatening lawsuits, Evelyn switched tactics with chilling precision. "Mr. Carter's camping poses a severe environmental threat," she announced, pulling out a new folder of documents about an emergency environmental review needed to protect the lake. The watermark on these papers matched the forged easement exactly. This wasn't just fraud. It was a calculated arsenal of fake documents designed to ruin me if I fought back. That night, I couldn't sleep, wondering how many other forged papers Evelyn had ready to destroy my life. Overnight, Evelyn upped the ante, creating a fake company called GreenGuard Environmental Solutions, complete with a slick website, fake credentials, and a hired actor named Ethan Walsh playing an environmental officer. By morning, a 40-page notice was taped to my door, citing nitrogen contamination, campfire ash pH issues, and bacterial risks, demanding a $90,000 fine and immediate property restrictions. Ethan showed up in a crisp uniform, carrying a briefcase of testing equipment that looked straight out of a sci-fi movie. For a moment, I doubted myself. Had my camping somehow caused damage? I spent a day researching environmental law, learning that real violations could mean 6-figure fines or jail time. Legal fees alone would bankrupt me $400 an hour plus a $5,000 retainer just to start. I was ready to give up and sell the property when Clara saved me again. She dug deeper, finding that GreenGuard was incorporated 3 days earlier with an address tied to Evelyn's home. Ethan, a local theater actor who'd played a lawyer in a community play. Clara also connected me with the Larson family, who'd lost their lakefront property to Evelyn's identical tactics a year earlier, forced to sell at 60% below market value after believing her fake environmental claims. Then I found something that made my blood boil. Checking my lake, I saw motor oil containers, chemical drums, and paint cans polluting the water. Actual contamination. But my trail cameras told the real story. At 2:15 a.m., Evelyn's environmental team had dumped the chemicals themselves, then returned 12 hours later to discover the pollution and take photos for evidence. She wasn't just scamming people. She was poisoning my lake to frame me as an environmental criminal. I expanded my surveillance, motion sensors, infrared cameras, the works, feeling like a spy in my own home. Digging into Evelyn's past, I learned she was a disbarred real estate attorney, stripped of her license in 2019 for stealing client funds. She'd targeted absentee owners with valuable lakefront land, using fake environmental crises to force sales. Her lavish lifestyle, far beyond an HOA president's salary, hinted at millions made through fraud. Evelyn didn't wait for me to strike back. She pushed for an emergency property seizure, convincing someone at the county to issue a 48-hour eviction notice, claiming urgent ecological remediation. She spun herself as a hero in the local media, accusing me of threatening the water supply for thousands. The community split. 25 families backed me, wanting refunds. 25 others supported Evelyn, terrified of losing their $7,200 or facing her fabricated $600,000 community fine. Neighbors who'd once been friends were now at war, some installing security cameras out of fear. I filed a counter-complaint with the county environmental office, sharing my trail camera footage and requesting independent testing. A lab confirmed the contamination was deliberate, using industrial chemicals ordered from specialty suppliers. My footage showed Evelyn's team at work, undeniable proof of her crimes. Just when I thought I had her cornered, a late-night call changed everything. A disguised voice said, "Evelyn doesn't work alone. Check permit 5523 at the county office tomorrow. She has inside help. Be careful who you trust." The line went dead, untraceable. My mind raced who else was involved. The county condemnation hearing loomed, a legal David and Goliath battle. Evelyn arrived with 3 lawyers, fake experts, and a media coordinator, presenting charts and testimony about an ecological catastrophe caused by my camping. I stood alone with my laptop and Clara's records, backed by neighbors and Officer Brooks. I played the trail camera footage, showing Evelyn's team dumping chemicals. I presented financial records proving her $420,000 scam. The Larson family testified about losing their land to her tactics. Then I dropped the bomb. Permit 5523, a backdated county document issued by Evelyn's former law school colleague, proving county-level corruption. The courtroom exploded shouts of "We paid to trespass," and "She poisoned the lake." Evelyn, cornered, blurted out, "I had to create evidence to protect the community." Officer Brooks stood, reading her Miranda rights as she was cuffed, still ranting about environmental protection, next to photos of the lake she'd polluted. Evelyn faced federal charges: environmental terrorism, wire fraud, conspiracy, impersonating officials, and theft across 3 states. Her assets, house, cars, accounts were seized, recovering $420,000 for victims. I got $90,000 for damages and stress. Clara became HOA president, enforcing transparency to prevent future scams. The lake was cleaned by professionals, testing cleaner than ever. I created the Willow Lake Access Program, $50 per month for supervised access, funding conservation and insurance, fully transparent. My career shifted to environmental advocacy, speaking at conferences about fighting fraud. FBI seizures of Evelyn's computers revealed plans to target 12 more communities across Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming, a multi-state crime network involving corrupt officials and hired actors. 3 years later, sitting by the lake, I watch kids in our environmental education program learn to protect nature and spot scams. The lake's now a demonstration site, with a plaque reading, "In memory of trust broken and rebuilt, always verify before you pay." But here's what keeps me up at night. Who was Evelyn's real boss? Was her arrest just the tip of a larger criminal iceberg? How many other communities are being targeted right now? Comment below. What would you have done if someone tried to steal your land like this? Have you ever faced a scam this bold in your town? Share your story, hit that like button, and subscribe to stay updated on more unbelievable true stories. What do you think Evelyn meant by "this was just a practice run"? And who was the anonymous caller who tipped me off?